Hey y'all, it's your chronically ill artist who used to be in the industry. And today, we're gonna ring in fall. So grab a snack, pick up a pen, and let's get drawing. If you haven't already guessed by the thumbnails, we're illustrating some over the garden wall fan art. Every year since I discovered this series, I've had this tradition. First thing to September morning, I'll pop it in, light a pumpkin spice candle, and set up all of my fall/Halloween decorations. I used to run a very tight ship of September 1st to November 1st was fall Halloween decor, and then I would immediately switch in one day to all of my Christmas decor up until January 1st, where I would then tear everything down just in time for my birthday. This is the first year that putting up decorations has taken longer due to my recent health change. I've been really trying to prioritize my body and listening to what it can and wants to do. And this is a lesson that I think I'm going to bring up a lot in all of my future videos, as it's not a very common practice in the commercial art industry. So much so that I often joke that my chronic condition is because I ignored my body and dove harder into a stressful work life. Now, what does this have to do with today's illustration prompt? Why, it's all about a fresh start and bringing in the new year. As a practicing witch, I find rolling into fall, it's more natural for me to deep clean the house and want to start making new resolutions and plan for the next year, as well as reflect on what the last year has been. Much like this series, it's a lot about moving into the next phase of life. So, while I'm filled with energy, I thought starting my long videos matches a lot of the sentiment towards the fall season. So why not start it with a little over the garden wall? You might notice that I'm starting today's sketch and paint tool Sai. I've used this program a lot back in high school and was debating about giving it another shot now that I'm more experienced. I think there are a lot of nice tools in Paint Tool Sai, and how natural the brushes interact with color blending is unlike other programs. I think you can get a really nice painted feel to a piece without fiddling or having to install extra tools. That being said, I do end up going back and repainting this piece in Photoshop, mainly because I felt like the tools were pulling me into the weeds of the illustration too early, and I felt like I was struggling to apply solid shapes and edges. My process over the years has become essentially apply an undercolor, drop some rough color over the top, leaving some of the undercolor in but trying to essentially get some texture into the piece. Then I flesh out my important shapes with color, add shadows, highlights, and then I add some lines, and then I tighten up the whole illustration once all those elements are in play. If I start tightening up my lines and shadows too soon, I don't usually end up with enough depth in my illustration, and I forget to mind some of my art fundamentals. I am constantly pushing myself back and forth between a volumetric, painterly illustration and a more flat, abstract, gouache style of illustrating. This one leans towards the first style a bit more, but I'm trying to blend both elements into my work. At this point in the piece, I've resolved how I want my characters to look, any foreseeable tangents, lights, shadow spaces, and planes of depth. I'm not sure what the technical word for this in art is, but I really have to take time to focus on a foreground, middle, and background, or I'll forget it entirely and muddy up the painting. At this point, I'll have also tried to identify object size, trying to make sure major elements are different sizes. For example, the foreground pumpkins are huge, Wirt and Greg are middle-sized, and the background has small pumpkins and shapes. I do later make Beatrice my small-sized object as well, because I feel like she wasn't sitting right within the scene, but you'll see that later on. For now, let's sit back, enjoy some of the tunes, while I speed through the cleanup of this sketch stage and show you the start of the painting in Paint Tool Sai. After, I'll come back and we can finish this illustration in Photoshop, as well as sneak peek at my next sticker / maybe sculpt project. So stick around and enjoy sketching. And we're back. You can really see that it was much quicker for me in Photoshop to lay down my colors and start creating texture and variation in the background. In Photoshop, I primarily use Kyle Webster brushes. I start with the Cube City Fuzzy, and that's the square variation brush that you saw. And then for definition or details or flat colors, I'll use either Happy HB, Gouache Go-Go, Pastel Palooza, or Rough Pastel. They all work differently and have kind of a variety on how their edges are or how they blend. So it's just kind of what I need for that moment. At this point in Photoshop, I'll finish this piece entirely. Overall, this piece took me 10 working hours, and I believe with like all the edits and undoing, I didn't paint tool aside, breaks, and sleeping, of course. I think this project spanned over about 4 days. Now that we've seen both programs, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Paint Tool SI versus Photoshop. And also, what is your preference for your digital art? This being my first long form video, I think it was more broad in topics and I kind of talked about myself, the programs, general stuff, but if you wanted a detailed comparison video of any digital art platform, I would love to do so. Just let me know. And if you're still sticking around, how's your sketch going? Did you end up doing over the garden wall art like I did? If so, you should show me what you did. Overall, I think this piece, I'm very happy with it. I really like how vibrant it turned out, and even though it's a little more rendered than I initially had planned to go for, I think it works really well. The next project in line is not a full illustration, so I'll showcase my more simplified form of illustrating. I think it'll end up becoming a sticker, but since it's character focused, I might also do a 3D sculpt, and I think my sketches kind of lend well to that idea. I think you'll see in the end of this video here. But anyone seeing this video is going to be welcome to vote on which figure I'll do in the comments. I'll also have an official pull up on my Ko-fi page. I highly recommend checking it out. I always give out free phone wallpapers, and I sell my art and products over there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Let's work on some future art prompts together and see what we create. Okay,